It's like, so what's going to happen in 10 years is everybody can make their AI own music, but everybody's like, oh, guess what? The Beatles aren't making new music. We know that's the OG stuff. We're going to listen to that, right? So I'm adding one more layer. The big brands will win. The old big brands will really win.
All right, welcome to another episode of No Investment Advice. We've got the NIA boys here back together in person. Well, not in person. What am I talking about? I was going to say me and Jack were in person last week. We'll talk about that in a second. Trung Phan, Jack Butcher, Bilal Zaidi. Boys, what's going on? Big week ahead. What's going on on your side?
Well, I want you to let the listeners know what transpired. You guys hung out, and was that cool, or what was going on here? How's the weather?
Jack, NFT NYC, any highlights, mate? The weather was banging, to be fair.
Beautiful week of weather, wasn't it? Yeah.
Incredible.
Bilal and I met up a couple of times. We went out Wednesday, didn't we? Got a little Ruby's Cafe, Mulberry Street.
Ruby's, yeah. So when you say
Fantastic.
Ruby's, I always think of like a curry because it's like a Ruby Murray. Yeah. But
a little Australian cafe. We got that Bondi burger with sweet potato
sat
fries.
in a greenhouse. That was the day. Yeah.
It's delicious. And
Jack took me to
and
Soho
Mikhail,
House.
they might be listening now. Cheers. We did a little Soho House. Nice little afternoon sesh.
Wait, who's a member of Soho House here?
That's Jack.
Yeah, how
Fancy
much is the
Jack over
membership?
here.
Probably $4,000 or $5,000 a year or something.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, you pay that for a WeWork.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
that's
pay
right.
more. You pay more than that for a WeWork, and WeWork is shit. I've never understood.
Is there a Soho in Nashville?
Is there a swimming pool in WeWork?
No.
No.
yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Is there Soho
Not
in Nashville?
sponsored by Soho House this week, but
Can
close.
you guys talk about... Okay, hold on a second here. So if I rolled up to Nashville, you could take me to the Soho. How many guest passes do you have?
Three at a time.
3 at a time? Okay.
That's it. That's the
Bring
limit.
the whole family.
Every day you could if you wanted to.
Every day, baby. Yeah.
Okay, that's worth it. That's something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Jack also hosted an event. I tagged along on Friday. We got to meet some cool NIA people. Jack, we met your boy Jordan. Give him a shout out.
Jordan, shout out. So for the listeners, Jordan has now met each one of us in person. I haven't even met Jack yet in person. This is speaks to...
That's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Listen,
Jordan,
man, Jack's got 2 kids. I got a kid. Like, Nashville to Vancouver. Look at that on the map, okay? That's not like next door neighbors, okay? We're gonna figure it out. It's gonna happen in 2023. Just hold tight.
I will say, it was good meeting. Like, there was quite a few people who you recognize from Twitter or YouTube. I'm gonna forget everyone's names off the top of my head, but I remember Matt, 7 foot Matt from Ireland, absolute
legend.
Jordan came through. I will say a funny thing Jordan said. I hope you won't mind me saying it, but he was saying, he was like, "Can I take a selfie? Got to send it to Trung." And then he was like, when I took it with Jack, he didn't look very impressed. And I was cracking up. And I was like, no, it's just Jack's too cool. Jack's like, cool dude. He's just going to be straight-faced. You know what I mean?
If you saw what Jack's wearing on this podcast, you would agree with the sentiment. That shirt is outrageous,
Incredible.
dude. Outrageously
Incredible.
good. But hold on. So one last thing before...
we got handheld Trung over here for people watching.
My mic arm broke, but it just continues the problems with Trung doesn't know how to freaking do a pod. 2 years in, still can't properly do a podcast.
So one of those things, it's like a bit that you commit to for life by this point. Even if you're on TV, it's like you're just going to hold the microphone. But yeah, all right, boys, what are we talking about? We got a lot to get through. Should we get going? So Drake featuring The Weeknd. We can't play the tune. It's the AI tune. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. We can't play it because we're going to get banned on YouTube
hard
or whatever.
On my sleeve, it went so hard. Like,
Absolute
people saying
banger.
that it didn't go hard. I'm like, are you out of your mind? This song goes so hard.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about what that means for music and the creative industry. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Steve Jobs archive and the economics of Coachella. Boys, let's get straight into the Drake shit. I mean, that is an incredible tune, first of all, but when I first heard this, I kind of said, this feels like a Napster moment again, because the background from my side is I've heard on all these, Think Boy pods, including ours, saying you're going to get individualized creative, like, TV shows, movies, cartoons for your kids, and music. And I was like, all right, yeah, it might become more personalized, but it's kind of like until you see it, it's not that good. You're like, all right, I'm not sure yet. When I heard the tune, I was like, it's 100% happening, because it's as good as a lot of typical Drake songs, and I'm a big Drake fan. And I was straight away thinking, all right, well, Are they going to ban it, or is one of these smart artists actually just going to embrace it, like Soulja Boy did when he was putting his stuff on LimeWire or whatever? So yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, when you first heard it, and where do you think it's going here?
Mental, man. Like, it was hard to... I saw a couple of people speculating there was a stunt, like a marketing stunt. And I think if you really listen to it, you're like, yeah, all right, like maybe it's not, I don't know, maybe it's not quite as sophisticated as they would ship it. Like, there's little bits in there, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
And it's obviously also one of the first ones that's ever been released. So it's the V0
It's like the
of this stuff.
of audio. It's
Right.
so a couple weeks
Yeah,
so a couple
exactly.
weeks ago, we
That's
talked
good
about
audio, yeah.
how pop code, how it was like truly a first viral image.
Mate, incredible
Well, people-
analogy that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a great take. Yeah, I love
It's
that.
a pop code of music. And well, what's funny is that people have been kind of known that this has been coming, right? Like, there's been drops of artists' voice that have been computer generated.
We
Did you
talked
see the
about the
Kanye
Eminem
one?
We talked
Yeah.
about Eminem,
Yeah.
David
With
Guetta,
Guetta.
right?
Yeah.
But did you guys see the Kanye ones where they had like Mariah Carey, Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
like a bunch of famous songs in Kanye's voice, and it 100% sounds like him.
It's just
It
none of
wasn't.
them went as hard. Well, because like you said, you know that's fake, right? Because it's him singing the other ones, and people are like, this one was like to Jack's point about the marketing stunt. Liquidity, great fin tweet memer, legendary memer, had a great comment. He's like, if you're the Weeknd, Metro Boomin, and Drake, you should just record this track. It'll be the biggest song of the summer, right? It's like a hat tip to the AI
Yeah, it's a
moment.
good shout.
You catch the vibe. Kick ghostwriters. So the TikTok
Well, hire the
account,
guy.
hire the guy, right? Well, I'll actually give you guys some. Do you guys know who actually did it? Do you guys where you get? Do you get? Okay, so
I mean, for people who haven't seen the video, I mean, the public persona is a dude in a sheet with sunglasses or something, right?
yeah. Well, the other part of this that there's an undercurrent here of people are quite annoyed that it's another black artist and black culture is getting knocked out by AI. Like that there was that sentiment, right? Which is fair enough. Is and there's always been that sentiment about how if you actually go into like with TikTok specifically, I don't know if you guys are aware of like kind of the underlying current with TikTok of how remember the dancers got super famous. Like who's the most famous TikToker? Like D'Amelio sisters. But like they're just doing dances that a lot of young African American girls are doing that blew up because they did it. And then the whole cultural appropriation thing. So there's that undercurrent, but we don't have to get too deep into it. But Mitchell Cohen, you guys didn't see this. He's the head of marketing at AppSumo, or head of membership, sorry. That's at Noah Kagan's company. But I know Mitchell from Hustle Days. So he did some sleuthing. So he looked into the profile of like Bilal, you mentioned, that the image of this guy, which has now been taken down, by the way. Like that song that he posted on TikTok is gone. And I got a DMCA request yesterday to take down of the video. I'm sure they're going to start taking it down everywhere. It's gone for Spotify. But he did some sleuthing, and it looks like this stunt was done by a YC-funded startup called Lalo.com.
Oh, I did see that.
And they're creator-focused startup.
Oh, no way. Wait,
Yeah,
what's
so,
it
like,
called again, sorry?
Lalo.
Laylo.
L-A-Y-L-O.
Oh, yeah. I
And
feel like I even met someone from there at some point
you
recently.
might have met it, dude. And I mean, they drove because if you go into the profile of Ghostwriter77, which was the TikTok person that posted it, first of all, if you go through him and then Lalo's founders, Lalo's founder is named Alex. First of all, Alex is a huge Drake fan, it looks like, and he was tweeting quite a bit about voice-generated stuff in the lead-up to dropping his Drake track. And Mitchell did the sleuthing. But anyways, it looks like the TLDR is this was done by a SaaS startup, which is just
Incredible.
hysterical, right?
That's
All
even funnier.
All roads lead back
To
to
a SaaS CAC.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
And you know
Is that
it
confirmed
like,
for sure?
it's not 100% confirmed. Like Mitchell said, he spoke to the guy, and they basically were giving the weak nudges, like they were
Got it. Yeah.
yeah. But the other thing I'll add about that story, so again, this looks like it was a stunt done by a creator startup, which is kind of hysterical, right? And it'd be so funny if after everything we talk about with the AI hype, that at the end of the day, all it was meant to like increase MRR and ARR. I mean, that's like literally what it looks like is gonna happen. But the one thing I
Trung,
was
you
gonna
just wrote our YouTube title for us.
Yeah.
You know, like Drake featuring Weeknd AI artist revealed or something like that. With
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah,
one
that's
of
gonna
those jack
bump on YouTube.
thumbnails.
But
Yeah.
the last thing I'll add is, so 2 days before this dropped, so this dropped on April 14th, Drake had actually seen another Drake song of his, and he just wrote in an Instagram story. It's now been deleted. He wrote, "This is the final straw." So Drake is part of UMG, which is one of the 2 or 3 biggest. I mean, all these big labels, I think the main labels control like 70% of the market. But yeah, they're gonna go after this aggressively. You guys talked about it, Napster moment, right? Well, blah. So I'll listen to your play because this is actually an area that you will know very well, former Google employee. So Ben
As
Thompson,
mentioned once a week.
as we remember, yeah, that's mentioned once a week. Ben
Current,
Thompson,
just so you know,
shareholder.
Yeah,
current share. Just so you know,
shareholder.
guest on the show.
Yeah.
Bilal was a former
Yeah.
employee, is very biased towards this.
former colleague of Sundar Pichai.
Yeah, exactly.
And Larry Page and Sergey Brin. But no, this is the thing I'll throw in your direction. So Ben Thompson, tech analyst, writer extraordinaire, who we reference once a month, less than Bilal's Google thing, is he said this reminds him of the YouTube fingerprinting for music, and then how artists now can opt into the YouTube ads. And then he added this. He believes this is very good for Drake. He's like, the main brands, the stuff we always talk about, brand distribution, they're going to win from this AI generated stuff. So I'm throwing to you guys.
Agree.
Bilal first.
Yeah, I kind of agree because I think there's a few parts to that, but I think if you think about a world where content is unlimited, like at the same time, we are all already aware of Drake's voice, The Weeknd's voice, Brad Pitt's face, and, you know, like all these famous people. So
and
those
Brad Pitt's
people,
abs and his abs.
exactly.
Okay.
All those people to me become the scarce resource, right? So yeah, there'll be artists that are created, I think, that are just straight up AI artists, a new person. But we've already built, you know, this 10, 15 years of Drake putting out songs, and people still like that familiar sound, I think. At the same time, obviously for him, he's going to be concerned, right? Like he's going to be worried about it replacing him. Why do they need me to sing when they can just make it online? There's going to be, you know, there's an understandable problem there. But like we said earlier, like the Napster moment was the first big moment. Then we had LimeWire, Kazaa, etc. Do you guys remember what happened then? All the labels went after them, right? And so that's what's happening now. So it's history repeating itself. Then what happened? A few years later, you get
and
iTunes.
they did win, you could argue, right? They sort of won.
Yeah, they did win. But then my argument is always consumers, like consumer behavior, will move in a direction and then they'll try to stop it, but we'll keep moving in that direction and they'll catch up. So now we've got Spotify, and in between we had iTunes. So like there's just been new business models that have emerged. So like we no longer download illegally, most of us, because it's inexpensive to pay for $10 a month for Spotify with no ads, unlimited library.
More convenience, right? I think you nailed it. It's like the point I want to jump on was just talking about how consumers go a certain direction.
Yeah.
If you just told somebody, hey, you have all the music in the world for $10 a month, people are like, oh, that's a pretty compelling offer, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the AI analogy then is, hey, you can make AI music with your favorite artist to sing whatever tunes you want. But now to circle that to make it a business model, you got to kick them back. Like if you're gonna tag, you got to tag them. You're using their voice, they get some type of royalty from
That's what I think will eventually happen. In that way, all these guys is going to make a crazy bank because there's the long tail of music, and then the best of it rises to the top. If they don't just care about money by that point, right? Like Drake is already super rich. He wants to make money, but he wants to do it on his own terms. So I'm not saying he should want this to happen, but I don't think it really matters. Like it's already happening, and I think it will continue going in that direction. And so the question I have is like, what's the intermediary step where iTunes came along and said, you know, here's an iPod, you can have 10,000 songs in your pocket, or you can buy a song for 99 cents or whatever it was. That was the intermediary step. And then eventually we got to Spotify. And so I think we're, you know, so early, but I think that what we're seeing with the AI stuff is what used to take a year is now taking like 2 weeks. So I think this is going to advance very quickly. And then the last thing, Trung, you asked about YouTube. So that's actually called, I think it's called Content ID. So as how it works is if we upload this video with a Drake song in it, it will automatically get flagged in the upload because there's like a fingerprinting technology in the background, and it will basically give me an option to either, you know, either block out the song or press a checkbox, and then they will be able to earn money from it. And most of the labels prefer that because they're just going to make
almost
money.
all of them do, right? That's why you see like these music videos with like 5 billion views, right?
Exactly.
It's like it's just an extra money pot for them, and I don't know why an artist. I think every artist at this point is like, just turn it on because YouTube is one of the greatest acquisition funnels.
Yeah, I think it's just at the label level, and most of the labels run most of the music, so it's just kind of like an opt-in thing, I'm sure, by that point. But I guess the question is that how long is it going to take to get onto TikTok, on Instagram, etc. with this sort of stuff? Because the way that fingerprinting technology works, it's like Shazam. It's like this song sounds exactly like this song, therefore it's a match. Whereas this one, it's a completely brand new song. So it's like that. It also brings up a question I'd love to get Jack's take as the artist in the room, is like what percentage of likeness counts as new music, right? So if they only have 30% of the song sounds similar or something like that, like, half of Kanye's music is samples from back in the day and we laud him for it, right? So I'm curious what you guys think about that as well.
I don't know enough about the music industry to know how, because the sampling thing, you do have to get permission, right, from the original record, and you negotiate a flat fee, or you do like a deal on the back end of how big the tune gets, because that is like an accelerant for musicians, and I feel like a lot of people use that as a strategy, right? They raise enough capital to like pay for a sample to like basically get their voice or their style on this bigger meme. They pay for the sample, and then they're like tapping into this audience that already is familiar with that song. But I was reading something yesterday that somebody said like you can't copyright a voice. Like, I'm sure Drake is a registered trademark, right? Like you can't come out and sell like Drake merch if you're not
But
Drake.
that's Drake the name, right? That's Drake the name,
that's not his
Drake
voice.
the voice.
But the voice, exactly. It's like, how do you trademark a voice?
But the name
probably
is what
doesn't
matters,
exist.
right? It's the brand. It's like, well, Jack, let's really, I would love Jack to like really dig into this with his brand knowledge. It's like Drake. So let's go back to what we talked about earlier. Will the winner be, like Bilal already said, he kind of agrees with it. The sentiment is like, these mega brands, they're going to keep winning because they're just going to get kicked all these royalties up whenever we figure out the model for AI generated music. Or do you think this is like something potentially existential where
maybe they
like,
win financially, but it's a shit position to be in as an artist.
Yeah, you don't have control.
To have all of your like something as personal as your voice is kind of crazy. Like this is a step further than the image stuff in my mind, where it's like the combination of all these images that don't have a specific signature, that are like part of bigger movements where everyone's kind of, I mean, someone like Drake is actually a good example of that. It's like people copy those like flows, the style of his like writing, rhyming, whatever the like.
Sweet boy singing.
Exactly.
Crime
like
in the car music.
The things that he's like created as these patterns that people copy, like there's already this like inferred frustration with that. If you're like great at something, or if you're like the top of the class, the amount of people that try and replicate what you're doing is significant. But like to take your voice and do it. I read this thing, actually. I did this project years and years ago where voice is a more unique identifier than fingerprint. That might be bullshit, but it's on the same, like, I used it in a marketing presentation for
So I definitely
I want to know what brand you were pitching for this.
No. I found it.
Milk?
It was in a medical journal somewhere, right? But the idea of like the ability to differentiate someone by voice is easier than fingerprint from a scientific perspective.
It's evolutionary. It probably makes sense evolutionarily, right?
There's like, this many different chords and tones and sounds and all this stuff, right? If you like record someone in a high enough definition microphone, and then I don't know, like dissect all the things in that recording, is very, very, very unique. Like it's DNA level uniqueness in a voice.
Yeah.
And where was I going with this? That idea of being able to copy that as a function of somebody having 100 hours of content out in the world, or 1,000 hours, or in Drake's case, probably, I don't know, 10,000 hours of his voice recorded on stuff in all different ways and shapes, is like, it's like the pendulum kind of swings back against you, where it's like you have made yourself a target for stuff like this by, you're a victim of your own success. That's probably something people say, right?
Can I also just clarify one thing? What I said earlier, I 100% agree with what you just said. It's like terrible for artists in terms of like what they care about. Obviously, we were just talking about money.
It's like cringe, right?
You mean aesthetically, yeah.
Yeah,
and like he's listening to that song and he's like, I would never say that, right? It's like, this is the extreme version of it. Is like when somebody uses your voice to scam your grandma.
Yeah.
That's
the same
which,
shit.
by the way, is blowing up right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Everybody needs to get their secret code sorted out with all your relatives. Call them up and say, if ever I ring you in distress,
that's a good shout, actually.
If ever I ring you in distress, let's come up with a word or a sequence of words that you can ask me for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Feel free to use that.
Feel
free to use that. Yeah, for the listeners and viewers that don't know, well, first of all, don't use that. We just gave it away. But I don't put your dog's first name. Don't put the street you lived on.
Nah,
put just like the secret question all over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, something that is a little bit wild. Jeez, my dad keeps calling me. Dad, I'm recording a podcast right now.
It might not be him. It might not be him.
Well, dude, I don't know if you guys saw the headline a week ago. A parent was called with her daughter's voice in air quotes saying, they're like, we have your daughter.
So
it's a hostage situation.
Terrifying.
We want $1 million. And then they made her sound like, yeah, mommy and daddy, like, I've been abducted. I'm like, oh my God.
That is sick, man.
The thing is this.
Sick in the worst possible way. So I know we use the word sick for both.
If you do 10,000, like,
it's terrible.
Time to get off the grid, boys.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, dude, it's like these email scams, right?
It's not like we have hundreds of hours of our voices on the internet either, you know?
All right, hold on a second, guys.
We're buggered, boys.
Here's my old man. Yeah.
Doing loudspeaker.
Okay.
We just answered it. All right, cool.
Okay.
All right.
Was that my dad, though? I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Would you agree to? Yeah.
Okay. So, one thought that I want to add. Well, I'll have two thoughts. Bilal brought up a great point about iTunes. You have to remember how revolutionary that business model was, right? And so Napster blew up what was a very profitable business, which was selling CDs. And you have to remember what CDs were. They're bundles of 5 really good songs with 10 awful, shitty songs that you don't actually want. But I mean, to be fair to artists in every period before the internet, like creating like an album is so much more probably artistically fulfilling than cranking out like 2-minute like bangers for TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And, like,
but people have to kind of reverse engineer it from that now, right?
Exactly. And I actually do think artistically. I think you guys bring up a good point. There's a big difference between making money and being artistically like relevant or artistically like truthful, right? So a full album. We talked about this with Ted Joyette, remember the music historian? He goes, you have to remember, like the actual benefits of music, because music has a lot of real benefits. This is why it's such a social element. When you listen to other people, you get dopamine, serotonin associations. But those things don't kick in until like 5-10 minutes of listening to music. So this is why, you've ever looped a new banger, like, oh my God, this song's amazing, and you loop it over and over and over again. It's because you're getting that benefit. The longer you listen, the longer you allow your brain to be in that zone. And the problem with, I'm not going to blame Steve Jobs because he created the 99-cent model, but he was basically like, okay, because he's a huge Beatles and Dylan fan, like we'll talk about when we talk about his archives. But the point being, the single song is actually not, it doesn't give you the benefits of what music has done for 10,000s of years. But anyways, to go back to the business model part, Steve Jobs with the iPod obviously saw that, okay, Napster is blowing up the music business. How do we basically, in a world of infinite and freely available content, it's like, how do you add another layer, blog, kind of touch on with Spotify, that makes it compelling for consumers to pay for, right? The iPod obviously is 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was always his pitch. That was super compelling in the early 2000s. And here's the crazy thing. On the eve of the iPhone being launched, iTunes and the iPod accounted for 50% of Apple's revenue. Like, just to think about how crazy that was, right? And even Steve Jobs, and this is probably an idea of, what's that saying? You can't think something that your salary won't let you do. What's that saying?
It's like it's very hard to get someone to understand something that their salary depends on them not understanding.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Steve Jobs actually in 2003 said streaming will never work. he said people want to purchase and interact with music the way they always have, which is like ownership over, you buy a vinyl, you buy a CD, you buy a cassette. He's like, they want to buy that album, they want to buy that one song. He was obviously wrong. But again, I think it was because of the business model of iPod and iTunes. I don't know what he actually truly believed, but he famously said that. That's one of the.
Is Apple Music done reasonably well or not? I have no idea.
It's similar to their podcast business, as in they had such a big lead on both fronts. It's just so immaterial to their bottom line.
Yeah.
They make $400 billion a year, right? The entire podcast industry is like $2 billion ad revenue. This is why Apple's had the podcast lead. Podcasts are literally named after Apple. And don't give a shit about them, right? Spotify is actually probably the number one podcast player now. So I will add this. One last thing I'll add, business model-wise, because Bilal did ask, is like, what is the next step, right? So if we talked about AI-generated music, that you can just tag your artist and then they should kick up money, even though it's probably really annoying because the lyrics they will not like. Ben Thompson wrote that he thinks Spotify now, this is very interesting. He goes, there's so much value now in authentication, right? And it's not, this is kind of actually related to what Elon is trying to do with Twitter, or whether or not you agree with how he's going about it, but it's like paying for social media is a form of authentication, right? It adds a friction and a cost to what is now infinitely and easily reproducible AI. So I think the Spotify, this is probably quite beneficial to them because you can at least go to them for the real stuff, right? I don't know what you guys think about that.
Agree.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
I think go on, Jack, go on.
I was just going to say there's also this, like if you take this argument even further, if it's not platform specific, then is there some cryptographic signature involved with artists signing their work eventually? I don't know if the monopoly ever breaks to the point where that is necessary, or you just trust Spotify, so you trust that everything on Spotify is legit, but also anybody can upload stuff to Spotify. I think there's like a illusion that platform is gate kept via authenticity or whatever else. Like we upload our shit to Spotify, we didn't have to ask anybody, right? Like,
I guess you have to sign up with an account, but you're right. It's not like it's just it's one of those consent forms or whatever. I'm not going to break the rules. The
ghostwriter guy can put, and again, the cost is zero, right? Yeah. The cost is zero. You can tweak that song enough that the algorithm can't detect it, spin up another account and put it up again. Or you just do a different spin-off, a different TikTok, like the rate at which this stuff can just like break through. And what did that get? 500,000 streams in a day, 1 million? I don't know, a lot. It feels like all of these things compress into like you have a 2-day music career and then you just rebrand and do something else, right? It's the same thing as like anonymous personalities in other places. Like you make something that resonates, find a way to monetize it quickly, and then you do something else. It feels like that's going everywhere.
That's where this is what's happening. This is the future, people. You're going to take the voices of Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift to shell software.
Salesforce.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you guys, what do you think of the idea of, I can 100% understand why Drake's annoyed, and I would be if I was him as well. He's got the most to lose in a way because he's already at the top of the game or whatever. At the same time, if I was a small to medium-sized artist, I think that's an interesting example where if they were to ride this wave and embrace it like we were saying earlier, the example I mentioned earlier was like Soulja Boy. It's not exactly the same thing, but Soulja Boy, young Soulja Boy, if you guys probably know the story already, we've talked about it, but people listening who don't know, when everyone was downloading like Eminem, 8 Mile songs or whatever, he would write that as the file name, but the song itself would be his song, right? I forgot what it's called, like that song. The one we were
Crack the
Soulja Boy.
That is one of the greatest hacks ever. It also happened with other types of media that I'm not going to mention.
Yeah.
Your download is like, oh my, again, you go. Again, you do? You make the file size enormous, right? So it tricks you. You're like, oh, this is definitely a video.
It's funny because it is like changing of the guard, masters of distribution, like UMG is playing defense now, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, who's the person who's going to be like, oh, I'm just going to ride it for a while. I'm mid-size. I'm going to embrace it. Maybe there'll be that person who learns the tools, hires that person.
Burner Boy.
And then, seriously. I mean, it's The other thing I was going to say, the difference though between what's it called, LimeWire and all that stuff, piracy versus this is just like this still takes someone making it, and obviously you can create an AI to create this and make lots of iterations of it, but like all of the songs, probably 99% of the songs are going to be shit, right? Like,
yeah, but and I also don't think I think the personalization thing is way over exaggerated.
Yeah, I agree as
well.
well.
The reason
it's like
music is enjoyable is because everybody's listening to the same shit.
Same song, yeah. It's
everybody
the same reason we're
shouts the
talking
same...
about Succession every week, or Love is Blind.
This is very related
Breaking
to our
Netflix.
Coachella talk coming up, right? That's a great point. It's personal. It's like, hey, I made a personalized song of Drake about my life. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I
Good
agree.
job.
Yeah.
Good job, dude. You've done...
It's actually inversely. It's like people think...
That's true.
Yeah, people think the opposite.
That's a great point, man.
Yeah, I was going to say...
monoculture.
You want... Exactly.
You want to share.
It's like the reason we send each other songs and we say, oh, did you hear that song? There's a reason for that, right? But I also think there's a potential for both, though. Like, the same way, for example, we all watch Succession, but my TikTok feed is completely different to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably not that different. We all got ridiculous stuff on it, but you know what I'm saying? There's like the long tail again.
No,
it's
there's
like,
both. There's both.
Yeah, you get the big ones, you get the Drakes, and then you get the AI generated artists who are like, for example, when I work, I can't listen to lyrics, so I listen to like Bonobo and Kate Tornado, like a few of these. Well, Kate Tornado does have lyrics, but I'll listen to songs that don't have lyrics. And now if I press the button and it just generated stuff and it was interesting and good, I probably would try it out. Yeah, go on.
No, I just want to say this. This goes back to Popco analogy. It's just like, it's actually not that compelling. Like if somebody's like, oh, I released a full album of the Drake and the Weeknd songs I made up, I'd be like, cool, I'm not going to listen to it. Like I would you know what I mean? It's like, it goes back to the original point and to Ben Thompson's point about these guys still winning, or these gals. Like Taylor Swift is still going to win. You want to hear her music that she created with her mind, with her words, right? Yeah, it's Lindy, man. It's like, I think a lot of this stuff, like it's like, you remember that first wave of like, hey, ChatGPT wrote a Bible verse about putting jam on toast. It's like cool the first 2 times you see it.
Yeah, fair.
You know what I mean? It's like, so like the next guy that drops a Weeknd and Drake song, I'm probably not going to care. And it's just not, it's going to be irrelevant.
I think so too, but until you hear it though, like imagine if they did just keep making bangers, because that's what I'm not sure, you're right, but it could also be there's thousands of these made and like 3 or 4 really pop off and they spread on YouTube and whatever, because that's how music spreads.
And you can make literally thousands of them in like 2 seconds.
That's what I mean. It's like you're just making this unlimited amount of content. And so, yeah, it is a weird, but I think what's going to happen, if I could fast forward, I think all that's going to happen is these labels are going to go to the big platforms. They're going to say, look, we've already got these deals with you. You need to enforce this in a more strict way. And they're going to have to create new like iterations of content ID essentially, and say not only is it complete fingerprint like Shazam, it's also anytime we hear their voice, we're going to get it flagged. But that also means, imagine any Drake interview is going to now get flagged. You know, they got to create something very specific. It's like Drake over certain music. It's like, it's kind of complicated. So yeah, very interesting. But I do think AI music is here to stay. I don't think it's going to be, we all have an individual feed of music that is just personalized to us, like they were talking about on All In recently. But I do think AI is going to make tunes that are bangers. I think there's going to be plenty of those.
Yeah, that's like the tech fucking no understanding of what music is. Like everybody's going to plug in and it's going to be streaming you made up songs in real time. No.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this is one more point that I want to bring up was, again, from music historian Ted Joya. If you look at the streaming platform and talk about Lindy Bilal, the most popular songs are like the Beatles. You know what I mean? It's like, so what's going to happen in 10 years is everybody can make their AI own music, but everybody's like, oh, guess what? The Beatles aren't making new music. We know that's the OG stuff. We know Lennon and McCartney took some acid and they made this ridiculous song about a yellow submarine. We're going to listen to that, right? So I'm adding one more layer. The big brands will win. The old big brands will really win. Elvis is never getting unseated. You will never unseat Elvis Presley. And man, we should talk about a whole episode how famous Elvis Presley was, man. Oh my goodness, man.
Incredible. But the only thing I was going to say though is I still think both of those things can be true though. I think like we still love old films. Because and one thing I was going to say actually before I say this, music is all about nostalgia, and most of the music we love is from when we're like 16 years old or something, yeah? So that's generally, and you tap into that feeling, like literally half of mine and Jack's texts are literally just songs, and it's literally from oh, do you remember this song on Channel U in the UK when we're like 12 years old? That's literally what it is. Now, like, that can still exist and is always going to exist and have a place, but there is the same way the example we said about Succession and Braveheart can exist, and my TikTok feed can exist, and the growth of TikTok and YouTube is exponential versus Hollywood. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're still going to have these amazing things, but maybe there is something that comes after this. And music might not actually be the best example. I think like visual content might be a little bit of a better example in a way, because like, you know, like we said, you can have like the TikTok feed is completely different for me versus you guys. So I don't know. Yeah.
You know what else is interesting? I think we underestimate how much content is being created right now.
That's a good point,
like,
yeah.
You know, everyone's like, oh my God, content is going to explode. It's like, yeah, there's like hundreds of millions, billions, whatever. And attention is finite, right? So I think that idea is also helpful to put this stuff in context where like the taste or the ability to capture a moment of the person creating the thing is really the differentiator. And I don't think it's a volume thing. It might just be the I don't even know if speed is that much different either. Like you can make a song in like Drake and whoever he's working with could probably make a song in half an hour, right? If they're dialed in, like they can
that Lil Wayne style, just turn up in the booth, just and bang out 8 tunes.
Right, and a person with AI can do it in 5 minutes or whatever, right? Let's say that idea of like that thing finding resonance when it's out in the world has, I think, less to do with the 5 minutes or the 30 minutes, right? It's just the quality of the thing. But like you competing against basically synthetic versions of yourself is a mental idea. But I think if you choose to use the tool as part of your process, you feel better about that competition versus you kind of, you know, trying to basically stick to the old way things are done, right? There's probably a bunch of analogies there where it's like trying to compete in a motorsport event on a horse, right? Like you might be really good at riding a horse, but the guys you're racing against are driving cars, so it doesn't matter how good you are. The technology is just like gonna flatten.
Don't fight the Fed, as Jack likes to say.
Right. Yeah, who knows? That's like complete speculation, but it would be crazy to me if somebody would have something like that happen to them and not be like, okay, we need to seriously look at this and like use it as a way to accelerate what we're doing, you know? Like, I would do it if like there's nothing really in the stack of AI tools that I've seen yet that I could feed all the visualized value stuff into and be like, give me like 200 of those.
Yeah,
I would do it just even as starting point, but like for whatever reason, that is
that's
like
a good point.
That context is not. Well, maybe I just haven't discovered the tool yet. But
no, but I think especially for yours, I mean, it is interesting because that is. I wonder if you had like an image with the text, like the caption and the association, and they could start to ingest that together and the relationship between the two. I wonder if it could start to learn what is working between those two things.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like I haven't seen anything like that either. Because if you took that prompt and put it in Midjourney, it's not going to,
make
output
no sense.
one of your things.
Make
exactly.
No sense.
No, but Jack could train his own. Jack could definitely train his own model, like buy some GPUs and just do it from his like legitimately, right?
That's kind of sick, to be honest. That's a pretty sick idea.
Danny Postma, come on, buddy.
There we go.
Can you make a Jack Butcher bot?
Yeah, seriously. Well, but one thing I was going to also just mention what you guys just said there about like quality, essentially. Like a lot of this is all about quality over quantity. There's already a bunch of shit music that we never even hear about, right? And the number I have here is 82 years worth of content is uploaded to YouTube every day. Yeah, so every day, 82 years. That sounds like, Jack's fingerprint thing you said earlier. When you said that, there's a thing when we were at Google, like when you make a deck, we have this thing called the BFD, big fucking deal. It was like you start off with like a big thing like that. So that is a BFD deal there. Yeah, it's like 82 years every single day. It's probably even more than that now. And that is already like 99.9% of that none of us ever see because it's shit and it gets 3 views, right? So that's the long tail. Or maybe not 99.9, but it's like 80,
No, it's
20 or
more than
whatever.
that.
No,
It's more
it's
than that.
99.99999.
You're right. Of actual unique numbers, but not like views. I mean, sorry.
Go like deep into YouTube and see some of the stuff that's up there. Like I used to, people are like reviewing washing machines and stuff that nobody's ever looked at. Crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. No, but I'm just saying. So in that example,
I mean, we're making this, and honestly, there's probably a couple hundred people listening to this. Like,
well, on YouTube, it's not, but a few
but you
thousand.
compare
but
to like a Drake or something. It's
yeah,
like,
of course. Yeah. Watch out. Yeah.
I'm not trying to. I'm not degrading our efforts. I'm just saying.
Watch your mouth.
The long tail is long.
The long tail is long.
No,
We are the long tail.
I think to Jack's point though, like even with the number that he said, which I'm not going to repeat, that's still like
Trung is so offended.
That's still like top percentile. That's a crazy thing, right?
Yeah,
It's like the
that's true.
average video
Trung just
culture
gotta
has
let
like
him know.
4
Trung
views
gotta
on
let
it.
him know we still top 1%.
No, well, I'm just
There you
saying. I'm not like trying to pump us out. I'm just
No,
talking
obviously,
about how
we messed around.
absurd 82 years is.
No, 82 years is absolutely insane, right? That is like a wild number. But imagine that of like the amount of content that's going to be uploaded for music, all this, like the AI content that is going to be created and just uploaded automatically by a bot. That's going to exponentially grow.
I mean,
and
82
most of it's
years
going to
is
be shit as well.
probably just
This is so. It's
exponential.
actually
crazy.
Yeah.
It's so grim. I'm glad we have finite attention. Like good that I have to like pull my heuristic and I only listen to like the Beatles and whatever I listen to in my teens. Right? I'm good, man. I don't need any more music.
It is weird though, because it's like we're now getting to the point where I know we're all joking here, but like what our parents said about digital music is what we're probably going to say about AI music or the next version of it, right? It's like the
I was just
parents
going to say,
were
we're the Luddites now, boys.
Yeah, we are, exactly. And it's like when, you still have that one friend who listens to vinyl, like Jack might have one in the back corner, I'm not sure. But it's like, actually Jack's digital and like extra digital as well.
Well,
So it
there's the
keeps it
argument
real.
that vinyl actually sounds better than digital, right?
Yeah, and it might be true, who knows? But like also, we got a handheld mic here, so we can do with 80-20 here. So
it's
we're
like,
good.
I don't know if we had this on this chat where it's like, oh, we really want to play like Sega Mega Drive, like really nostalgic.
Yeah.
You fire it up, you're like, this is shit.
This is the worst. I'm getting zero dopamine. I've been on this thing for 30 seconds and I've had zero dopamine. What is going on?
It's just like bias, humans, fudding.
Everyone always wants to say
everything's
it was
coming.
better when I was a kid. When in my day it was better. Like
It's better because you were a
sometimes
kid.
it was exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And sometimes genuinely it was. Some things were better, but like realistically, it's just like taste changes and your opinion changes. So like it will be interesting to see. But I do think the thing with music is the coolness comes from, like we said, those people. So like unless someone can create that cool factor, being the anonymous guy with a bedsheet on his face, and which I'm sure someone can, because it just takes, like, it just has to cross the chasm. Like the example I always use is online dating, right? Like online dating used to be for nerds,
Plenty of fish.
Plenty of Fish or whatever it was, and they would use desktops with mainframe vibes, right? And they would be like, oh, I'm meeting this person in a chat room. And you'd be like, oh, that guy's going to be a serial killer. And then 7 years later or whatever it was,
You're the weirdo for doing the opposite, right?
Yeah. Let me tell you about our website, vietsingles.com.
Jesus Christ, VS Singles. But no, all jokes aside, it just took one person at work to say, oh, I went on Tinder or I went on Hinge and I met someone and this is what happened. And everyone's like, oh, cool. They were all right to do it. I'm like on that curve now. And it's literally all that happened. So as soon as someone becomes cool enough and actually starts making banger music and they become the new Kanye because they're using all the tools and they're actually really talented, right? That's obviously key. They're just going to become the next thing, like the way, like we've seen so many versions of this before. So I still think there's something to it there. But
I think this is a good segue into
let's
Coachella. So Coachella started this weekend. I don't think anybody in this call has actually been on Coachella, which is kind of crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, no
one
I
here,
haven't
right?
been.
Nope.
Because Jack's been over 100 live music things. Well, legitimately. Jack, would you say over?
Probably true though, yeah.
Would you say over 100 live music? Come on, that's possible.
Conservative. I mean, we're counting performances at festivals, but easily. Yeah.
How close were you going?
Because that one festival you can do like 20. Yeah.
Well, Jack, you definitely. How close were you ever going to Coachella?
I've been close, but how long has that been running for? 10 years or something?
1999. since 1999.
Well, I just didn't have that kind of green when I was first in the US.
Well, this is a great point. Here we go. Let's talk about Coachella, the concert in I guess
Tron,
right
King of
outside Palm
Segways.
Springs.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but it was one all-star one where we were laughing for ages. But all right, Tron, back to you. Go on.
So this goes to our friend Dan Runcie, a Trapdoor newsletter. We got some old favorites in this episode. Bilal's Google employment history, Ben Thompson and Dan Runcie. A nice mix of some of the show's favorites. So he has an amazing article about Coachella. He talks about 1999. It was announced. It was announced right after Woodstock 99, which was one of the biggest failures ever. You guys remember Woodstock obviously was a big...
it was a fire fest of the 90s, basically, right?
The 1999 version of Woodstock was, but the OG Woodstock in the 60s was like the craziest shit ever, right?
Mad stuff, yeah.
So Coachella, to Jack's point, the first ticket, how much... So today, Coachella costs $500 to go. About how much... This is not even the VIP stuff. This is like standard 2 weekends or whatever. How much do you think the first Coachella costed? 1999. 25,000 tickets were sold.
$20?
2 G's.
Oh no, was it more? We just said that two opposites.
You guys said it's complete. This is the price. If the price is right, like Jack's not even remotely close. The price is $50.
Oh, okay. I'll win that one. All right, there we go.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Right.
So, total failure. Not total failure, but like completely right after live music had been given this like awful name because of Woodstock 99. This is the analogy that that Dan uses, which is hilarious. He goes, the timing of the 1999 festival is remarkable. Imagine if a new crypto exchange platform launched the week after FTX collapse, and then by 2035, it was the largest institution from crypto in the world. So like Coachella launched right after like the FTX version of live music, and then now it's the biggest thing in music. So it's like the whole thing. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, my perception of it was it's launched into this like luxury, like this is the best of the best thing, but I didn't even 99 is a long time ago too.
Exactly, right? So it grew into this absolute monster. And I mean, apparently, I did not know this, but it's bigger than Lollapalooza or Glastonbury. Because have you guys been to Glastonbury? That's in Scotland or is that in England?
No, it's in England, but
it's in the southwest of England, mate. My friend owns a farm.
Jack, have you not gone to Glastonbury? I haven't either.
Never been.
Embarrassingly too, yeah.
But it's insane, right? Like that. It's like one of the
supposed to be
craziest
amazing,
festivals.
Yeah.
You know,
especially when Jay-Z turned.
there.
Do you remember when Jay-Z headlined in some Oasis song?
Jay-Z,
What a legend.
Oh my God.
By the way, rumors are circling, boys. Maybe an Oasis. Oh, yeah.
What, that they're coming back?
Yeah, potentially.
Have you seen Oasis live?
I saw their last ever concert.
No. Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Incredible.
Wait, where was that, Jack?
Millennium Stadium, Cardiff.
That is sick. That is sick. All right, sorry, back to...
back to Coachella.
Tron, I was going to ask, there was I was chat GPTing and barding this while you were talking. So, do you know?
Hey, Bilal, is that your homepage now? What's your homepage?
Yeah.
I'm serious. A serious question.
No, I don't. I just have like the open tab homepage. Like I actually use Momentum, whatever that is. It Momentum, that Chrome extension, which has a nice picture.
Nice.
It's basically, yeah, it's just
fair enough.
Just a nice picture with the time of the day and the temperature outside. But there was apparently like a final performance and like a fight broke out in a mosh pit or something. Did you hear about this, Strunk? In 99?
In 99, no.
And there was like a fire that spread quickly.
Oh,
and
so number 99 was a disaster. Or this could be a hallucination by ChatGPT. So please,
that's
listeners.
what I was going to say. Because ChatGPT says it was Red Hot Chili Peppers. Bard said it was Limp Bizkit. And I'm wondering which one it was.
Those are... Can we get
very
Google?
Different.
Can we go to the?
We have to go to Google
source
to check
of accuracy here. So
Limp Bizkit.
Fuck. God.
Yeah,
they were a legend.
They were going hard. Fred Durst.
Remember when he was doing the WWF or AKA WWE intro music for The Undertaker? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, everything's entertainment, boys. That song's a banger. So let me talk you guys through some economics of Coachella. So it's worth a lot for the Palm Springs region, obviously in the billions. I think $1 billion plus. I've been invited a number of times to Palm Springs homes around that time, and I really wish I had gone. But I will be going to Palm Springs later this year, actually. But anyways, back to Coachella. So this is
great. What are you going to Palm Springs for?
Oh, family fun. But you guys know that famous Coachella poster, right? I don't know, Bilal, if you'd be able to pull it up, but it's like they show the 2 weeks, the headliners, and then all the names underneath. So this is really cool from Dan, he goes, this is a rule, like a kind of heuristic. The top name now makes about 4 to 5 mil. Bad Bunny, I think let either this week or the upcoming week is going to get 5 mil. The second line is 500K an artist per weekend. No, 750K an artist. And then a massive drop off after. And then at that point, you're up and coming artist. You just want to get on stage, right? And to be seen. But this is where it gets really interesting. He's like, somebody like Taylor Swift, she can make 10 mil per night on her own tour. So like, for Coachella to convince her to do Coachella, you got to throw her serious cake. Like even, so Beyonce did Coachella a few years ago, but it's because she agreed to have it filmed for a documentary, which she's paid 20 mil for. So for like there's like layers, right? Like Bad Bunny, huge artist, takes a 5 mil per weekend. But then guys like Drizzy, people like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, the 5 mil is not compelling. Like that's how crazy this kind of like situation is. And yeah, he put that, and yeah, he covered that. That was kind of the main point.
That's crazy. Yeah,
what do you guys think about that? Any thoughts?
I didn't realize it was that much. Or
maybe that like the festival is obviously going to bring you fans outside of your core, you know, like people there to see other people. So that I would think justifies the difference in fee, right? Like if I'm going to get 50% new people,
it's worth it, yeah, to be on stage, even if
am I saying something stupid here? Because you boys looking at me like...
No, we agree with you, man. Hey, Jack, that's just the internet.
Processing.
That's just the internet glitch. Well, let me read you something that...
it's like
Trump, you're getting plugged in someone else's newsletter, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll take the W.
Get some new readers.
So, I tweeted out that Coachella...
You have to translate that to try and... You're like, it's like a newsletter plug. That's hilarious.
Imagine getting a new subscriber. Just think about that.
Yeah. Somebody that wouldn't even thought to read that post.
There you go. All right, should we do the last one here, Trung? On
one other thing I would say on that is
Jack.
like probably your hourly rate is better on that too, because you're only hitting a half hour set or something.
That's
a lot of
true.
times, right? Half hour.
Yeah, I guess there's a little prep in that, but it's not really. It's not like it's not crazy. All
just
right,
plug the hologram
in,
plug the AI in pretty soon,
That's
boys.
That's true. Last question for you guys on that. What is the likelihood in the next 10 years we're going to have either the SoundCloud rapper equivalent of an AI artist that pops up like the person with the sheet on, with the tunes performing at Coachella with their AI songs?
It'll happen in the next 100%. Year. It will happen in the next year. 100%.
In the next year, you think?
In the next year. Guaranteed.
All right, that's faster than I even thought. Jack, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it will happen. I don't know if those careers will sustain in the same way because just people will lose interest in it. One of you boys said earlier on this, it's like the new bar is set and you're quickly like, okay. Yeah. Like I think people are way more interested in people over a longer period of time, right? Like technology is just like this layer underneath.
I think I was saying a
person...
like the equivalent, the example I'd give, sorry, Jack, is let's say Fred again. We've talked about him on the show.
Using the tool.
Yeah, like electronic music.
100%, that's going to happen.
Became, the dominant way people make electronic music is on,
I mean, in many ways, like a lot of people don't give a shit about that anyway, right? Like
that's what I'm saying. You don't know people don't care if it's on Ableton or like Fruity Loops. They just oh, is this a banger or not? You know, what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Mate, that's true of everything. That is, investment advice. Is this a banger or not? That's basically the question across
Good
the board.
model for life. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like all the philosophical debates surrounding it are less important to most people.
Yeah, 100%. All right, boys, let's move on to the last topic here. We got 15 minutes. Trung, Steve Jobs Archive. It sounds, I don't love the name, even though it's probably very descriptive, but what is the Steve Jobs Archive?
The Steve Jobs Archive is like Lorene Paul Jobs, his widow, creating like organization to share his
All right, I feel terrible
materials.
now. But
yeah. No, it's fine, dude. It's literally a Steve Jobs archive, but they released a book last week, and a friend of the show, David Senra, Founders Podcast. Yeah, he's such an animal. But this book came out on like a Thursday. I just listened to David's episode about the book yesterday. So he read the entire book, recorded 2 hours and 30 minutes podcast. So the number one thing is I'll point people to David's podcast. We'll put it in the show notes. The book is called Make Something Wonderful. And it's just emails and correspondence that Steve Jobs had with, they released the archives. Like, what I would say is, like, there's nothing like going to this source for how they thought about the world. And we already talked about Steve Jobs and iPhone and iTunes earlier in this episode. This book is insane. Like, I flipped through it. I probably read half of it. It's free. So go to Steve Jobs Archive and download it and your favorite reader. And you guys haven't had a chance to look at it, yeah?
No, not yet.
I've been on the site and looked around. There's a few. I think the one that the email that they featured on the homepage was a favorite of mine, but I haven't read a bunch of them. You know, he talks about basically humanity creating things that he deeply appreciates, and like being able to contribute that is.
Yeah, I'll read it. You nailed it. It's the last document in the book. It's one of the last things he sent him. So Steve Jobs passed away in the fall of 2011. This is the email he sent himself. So the amazing thing about this is, do you guys do this too? I email myself a lot, just like list, but I'm not Steve Jobs, obviously, but I'm just saying it's like
Not
a behavior.
Not yet, Trunk. You're on your way, mate.
But this is what Steve wrote. He emailed himself. He goes, I grow little of the food I eat, and of the little I do grow, I do not breed or perfect the seeds. I do not make any of my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I did not conceive of or legislate, and I do not enforce or adjudicate. I am moved by music I did not create myself. When I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I did not invent the transistor, the microprocessor, object-oriented programming, or most of the technology I work with. I love it and admire my species, living and dead, and am totally dependent on them for my life and well-being. Sent from my iPad.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's key.
Amen.
Sent from my iPad is beautiful as well.
So let me just thread this with the caveat that people need to listen to David's episode and then just take a look at the book. But you guys remember his famous Stanford speech, right? His 2 lines that we've mentioned before on this show is connecting. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So he's very big on exploring different fields. He always talked about marrying liberal arts and technology, and he had varied interests, and he thinks that's very important to him. So the other part of that, he said, was like he lived every day. The saying is, if you wake up every day and believe it'll be your last day and you'll die that day, like one day you'll certainly be correct. So that was truly his mindset. From his late teens, he would wake up and be like, is this what I want to be doing today? Is this, if it's not, and he said, if I went too many days where the answer was no, I knew I was on the wrong track. I wasn't honoring what I wanted to achieve. But the thing that's interesting about this book is, so I bring up that Steve Jobs Stanford commencement speech because I think everybody here has seen it or listened to it. But this book has emails he sent himself, writing it. So real-time writing of that speech.
Oh, that's sick.
So it's unreal watching him put that speech together. And the other thing I want to know about Steve and my takeaway from this book and what I have read is like, this guy is just not motivated by money, right? And I know that I don't want to be hagiographic about him. Like, he obviously had a lot of flaws as an individual, but I think as an entrepreneur, he's gold, right? Like Mount Rushmore level. But he was not motivated by money. And what he said here in this email to himself, which is very interesting, he kept on crediting other people for things he's interested in and the technology. He famously said, put a dent in the universe. He truly believes that everybody is capable of contributing something to the universe. And I think that's what comes through in this book. It's like, no matter what success or achievement he had, all you're watching is this guy writing to himself. He's like convinced anybody can contribute, and he's doing his own to do it. And it's actually extremely motivating to see this guy. It's just like, and he's like, he does something amazing. He's like, cool, on to the next thing. It's like, that's it. Doesn't dwell. And no, it's a great book, man.
That's sick. No, that was nice, man. It's like even just looking at it visually, and we can ask Rafa, our editor, if you could share the screen on stevejobsarchive.com when Trung was talking about it before. But like even the formatting, it looks like a poem to me, the way he's written. It's like two lines per line, like short lines.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like very poetic, just sending him those messages. Yeah, I definitely will check it out, man. Looks great.
There's
Jack,
also
any
a
final
ton
thoughts?
of photos in the book, so I'll have that, like lots of photos.
Oh yeah, I mean the one I'm looking at on the front cover, this guy looks like a G from back in the day.
Here's his home office. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that photo's of his home office.
Class,
but yeah,
man.
the guy was
Beautiful.
swaggy.
Is it on Kindle and stuff too?
Yep, ebook, EPUB,
Oh,
whatever.
that's amazing.
It's
So who
it's,
released it? His family or what?
yeah, his family, Lorene Powell Jobs.
That's dope,
And,
man.
But yeah, very cool. Very cool.
I have to say the book by Isaacson on him, obviously incredibly popular book. It's not like I'm finding a hidden gem here, but it's still one of my favorite like biographies. It's so good, man. It's so good. Have you
Walter,
read
yeah.
the Steve Jobs Walter Isaacson one?
It's incredible. It's
So
absolutely
good.
incredible. It's so Walter Isaacson, he wrote let me throw some book records from Walter. He did a bio about Benjamin Franklin, which is incredible. It's probably my favorite bio ever. He did one on Leonardo da Vinci, but then sadly he unfollowed me on Twitter, so I just want to add that. And
What did you do, man?
I don't know, right? I don't know.
We should do another segment at one point. Did you see that viral thing on Twitter where it was the most random person who's blocked you on Twitter? Did you see that?
I should. The unfriendly. I should probably just do that too. Dude,
You probably got a few of those.
You know what's so funny about those viral Twitter things? Is it's like somebody with like 1,000 followers just throws up this random question. People go retweet it. Just like it goes like 50 million people see it, right? And I'm just like thankful for this person that's just like, I'm just gonna get the ball. You know when you're in the stadium and people do the wave? That's the equivalent of this guy just doing the wave. He's getting nothing out of this other than like getting something viral going, but it's amazing.
Jack, any thoughts on Steve Jobs? I was going to say we forgot to do our meme of the week, so we can round it out with the meme of the week at the end. We don't usually do that.
Let's hit it. Hit it, meme. No, great.
Right,
I'm going to read it. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, the book. Yeah. Cool. We're saying you're going to read the meme, mate. Here we go.
I'll do that
All
too.
right, here's the meme of the week. This is Elon Musk. This was something we wanted to talk about. The Canadian Broadcasting Corp said they're less than 70% government funded, so we corrected the label. And you can see the CBC here says 69% of government funded media. Absolutely ridiculous. 44 million views.
People, read the community notes though. In the most recent reported period, government funding for CBC only accounted for 66%.
That makes it even funnier, doesn't it?
Let me actually, we're supposed to talk about this. I know we've got a couple minutes. I'll just dive in this quickly because it's roiled quite a bit.
It's a resident Canadian too. So
some roiling of the Canadian. Let me tell you what CBC has done. So CBC is government-funded media, and its kind of origin story is that Canada, for centuries, or since 1867, since it started, its founding history is like we want to be different than America. And part of that is having a different media ecosystem. So the Canadian Broadcasting Company, CBC.
Tron, really quick, is it the equivalent of BBC?
Very comparable.
Okay.
But I think with even more mandate to create Canadian content.
Hey, do you pay a license fee for it?
Me personally?
As a Canadian, or is it
no?
taxing?
I'm sure the taxes get kicked up.
Because in the UK, you're supposed to pay like a TV license, which goes to the BBC, which I always check the box whenever I'm VPNing in. So
you got a license for that TV, Bilal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was an advert on the TV. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Trung, back to your story about him.
No, it's like so CBC's done some very positive things, right? Like Hockey Night in Canada is a big CBC institution. CBC Evening News is like an institution. It was also meant to protect French language content, right? So a lot of the funding goes to creating French language content. A lot of content around Native American content that doesn't get made. But I think what's at criticism here is that the government assigns the board, right? There's supposed to be editorial independence, and there's like an ombudsman that is a neutral third party is supposed to make sure it's editorially independent. But I guess the criticism is, number one is this. In the CFA, the Chartered Financial and Analyst Institute test, there's 15% of that test about ethics. And like the number one thing is you can't accept a $100 gift, right? At most brokerages and asset management firms, like $100. If you accept something over $100 like a dinner, you have to report it. It's because even a little bit of money will influence you, right? It's like, listen, I won't say stuff bad about somebody that's paid me in the past for some sponsorship placement. It's just a reality situation. So if you're 70% funded by the government, whatever you think your mandate is, you're trying to tell me that there's complete and 100% editorial independence. I find that a little bit difficult to believe. There's supposed to be, but I think just human nature, that's tough. And it's become a huge political football. Liberals are in power under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and obviously the Conservative, which is the main opposition party, they want to defund CBC. It's become political football, right? But interesting. I just want to note that the reason why it happens, they want to protect Canadian culture against the U.S., protect French culture against the Anglophones in the country, and then uplift Aboriginal content. But I could totally see why it's politicized. I got to look more into it, but 70% is a lot, man. 66%, I can see why people think the way they do.
Yeah.
Done.
Love it. No, that's it. Jack, any thoughts or comments to round us out here, mate?
No. When you're running for office, Trung.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a perfect breakdown. I was like, what's going on in Trung's head there is incredible to watch in motion, man. It's beautiful. All right, boys, I think we got to let Jack get out here. Jack, we do want to talk about your sauna at some point, but maybe we'll save that for a live one later.
We'll save it for next week. We could talk.
We'll save that for later.
Yeah, we got a very good story for you people that involves a sauna.
Yeah. But I hope you guys...
but it involves a sauna in a very PG version.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. That sounded like a ridiculous tee-up. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for being here. As always, we appreciate you guys. Great to meet many of you last week. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that again at some point. And hopefully at some point, all three of us will be in the same place and we'll be able to do that in person as well and do a live NA. That is the hope as well. And we will see you guys next week. Cheers.
Peace.